This term was first adopted by applied to the church by Saint Ignatius of Antioch in the first part of the 2nd century. So this is not new. It's been around for 1900 years. Church is Catholic since Christ is the head of the church, empowering the church hierarchy through the apostolic succession to administer it. Church follows Jesus' commandment to teach all the nations the good news of salvation, that salvation is possible to all. Church is also Catholic in the sense that it continuously teaches what Christ taught. The same essential faith and worship are held by the wide variety of the people. The presence of the Lord guarantees that church will always be Catholic. The churches in any area are united under their bishop. In here we have the Diocese of Galveston, Houston. So, and our bishop is Daniel Cardinal Bernardo. So it's a good example. Now, how is Church Apostolic? Right, the present leadership of the Catholic Church traces back to apostles who were commissioned by Christ himself. Church is apostolic since it professes the teaching of the faith coming from the apostles themselves. Apostle, by the way, means one who is sent. All Christians, in a way, are apostles and have the mission of teaching and sharing the good news. Now, we're going to talk about ecumenism. That's very important, our last topic. And it's the church and other religion, discussion of church and other religion. Now, major world religions. Let's first take a look at all the major religions in the world. Not every single one, but most of them, the more main ones. The typical division is between Eastern and Western religions. West is usually like Judaism and Islam and Christianity. And East, mainly Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Shinto religion. Shinto is in Japan. And there are some other minor religions that are under these, but we're not going to go into details. That's just for your information. There are also different Christian denominations. So that's important, especially in the United States. We have Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and also Protestants. Protestants is basically a product of the Reformations. We talk about it a little bit more. How did division among Christians come about? First, we had an schism between Western and Eastern churches that was actually mainly caused, it was political. Political and the difference in, I guess, some differences in where should be the Holy See. And I guess it was moved in 1054 permanently to Eastern Rome and Constantinople. Now, Protestant Reformation was due to some corruption and laxity in the church itself at a time, which came in form of Reformation. Throughout the history, we've had that, but most of the time we've had internally at some times there were monks or what have you, they took over, cleansed out the church again. Churches started going away from its mission and then came back. But 16th century finally was the boiling point. And Luther, everybody knows Martin Luther and Calvin and all those guys, that they started actually the Reformation, coming up with the Protestant movement. Also in England was a similar movement. Anglican church was a product of that, but it was a conflict between the church and the King of England. Most of you probably are very familiar with Henry VIII and his, I guess I would say, conflict with the church that ended the Catholic Church rule in England, not rule, but presence per se, totally, and the new church was Anglican Church. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you know better than me the history, so I'm not going to go into details. This brings us to realize, to ask, what is ecumenism? Now, ecumenism comes from the Greek word that means universal, like Catholic. Ecumenism movement conveys two things: all the world religions to understand one another better and to avoid conflict, one. And then also for Christians, it refers to efforts of all the Christians denominations to work for greater unity among themselves and to try to improve their relationship. Now, Christian ecumenical movement started in Edinburgh, Scotland, back in 1910, almost 110 years ago. It led to founding of the World Council of Churches in 1948. But it took Catholic Church a few more, one or two more decades, a decade or so later, that they officially started joining right around Vatican II. Vatican II actually had a lot to do with it between 1962 and 1965. The goal of the ecumenism is to achieve a common commitment among Christians to live out the gospel and to be open to the unifying action of the Holy Spirit. Wow, something to think about. So what is our part to bring about Christian unity? Our part is to live the gospel, pray in unity with our Christian brothers, study and share our faith with others, communicate with other faiths, and cooperate in matters that unite us and would bring us together. But we got to be also firm on our belief. So who does belong to Catholic Church? God calls all people to the Catholic community. Catholics, other Christians, and all people belong or are ordered to this unity. So we belong and other ones are ordered. That's why you guys are coming, RCIA. According to the Dogmatic Constitution on the Church, chapter 14, Catholics, paragraph 14, I'm sorry, Catholics are those who, possessing Christ's Spirit, accept her entire system and all the means of salvation given to her, and through union with her visible structures are joined to Christ, who rules her through the Supreme Pontiff and the bishops. This joining is effected by the bonds of professional faith of the sacraments, of ecclesiastical government, of and of communication. Okay. However, belonging to the Catholic faith does not guarantee salvation. That's important. One must live a loving life like Christ and to be a church member in heart and soul, and not just in body. That's important. All right. Our relationship, the relationship between Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox. Catholic Church respects the Orthodox Church. They have all the basic beliefs. They celebrate all the sacraments and have a valid hierarchy and priesthood. The basic difference is the role of Pope and his supremacy over the church. There are also other minor differences, but in liturgy, very much we follow the same thing. They also have the apostolic succession and they believe in it. Now, relationship with the most Protestant churches, with the most. If they have the Trinitarian form of baptism, they are one with the Catholic Church, but not fully so. Explanation of importance for RCIA. This is very important for you guys to explain. Even though we may have the same Trinitarian baptism, it is maybe separate the same, but we have the same baptism. It's in name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So when you come to the church as a Protestant, you don't need to be baptized again. All right. But as a Muslim, I had to be baptized. So me and a couple other children had to go through that. Actually, there was 4 or 5 of us. Non-baptized are those Christians without Trinitarian baptism and must be baptized. Baptized with the Trinitarian form of baptism. Or examples are Lutherans, Methodists, Baptists, Presbyterians, Anglicans, some evangelicals, and etc. List goes on. We make a profession of faith and we're not rebaptized. Okay. Now they're accepted as our Christian brothers. They do not have many of the sacraments and they do not possess the apostolic succession. That is important. As a matter of fact, they don't believe in it, most of them. Not all. Role of the church towards other people. Now, this is just in conclusion. And oops, sorry. It's basically a missionary role. Church reaches out to all other faiths and people to reunite them under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. This division is the cause and work of Satan, which is to be amended and rectified by all of us Christians through our missionary work. And that's very important to recognize. Sometimes, even in the church, it's not, the actions are not from God and Holy Spirit. And you got to be able to recognize that. With that, that's the end of my presentation.